Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitator and coach Betsy McLaughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Hi guys, how are you? Welcome to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host, Betsy McLaughlin, and I am very, very happy to introduce my guest today, which is Miss Venus Castleberg. So first of all, welcome, Venus.
Oh, thank you, Betsy. It's so happy to be here.
Thank you. And let me just tell you guys a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about problems.
Yay, fun! Woohoo, real light subject.
and really, it's about turning problems into possibilities. That's the actual name of the show. And it was funny just as I was like, all right, we're going to talk about problems. And it was kind of like, wah, wah. So we're going to be talking about turning problems into possibilities. And what if a problem isn't actually a problem, but it's a possibility hidden in disguise? I love that question. And what if there's nothing wrong and everything is actually working out in your favor, even if you can't see how? So those are some kind of fun questions. And really I know we're going to dive way into this subject. And being willing to trust yourself and trust that the universe actually has got your back. And I talk about that fairly regularly these days on the show, just in different ways, Venus, and I'll love to hear what you're going to have to add to this conversation today. And so what if you're not broken? And what if there is nothing to fix? So when we look at problems of life as possibility, what else truly could be possible from that place? So a little bit about Venus. I met Venus I don't even know now, 2 years ago, in Costa Rica at our annual facilitator training that I attend. There's different locations around the world. That's the one that so far I have gone to, and I got to meet you there in person. So I've played with you a couple of times. Venus has a radio show also on OMTimes, and I was a guest on her show a while ago. And what is the name of your show, Miss Venus?
Outside the Impossible.
Outside the Impossible. And when can people listen to that show live?
Oh, great. Thank you. It's actually Mondays, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, great. And just like this show, you can also go to OMTimes Radio and listen to. You can click on for all the archives, and then OMTimes puts it in a lot of different places, including iTunes, and so there's a lot of different ways that you can listen to her show. And so Venus studied for over 20 years. She studied every modality she could get her hands on, including massage, homeopathy, hypnotherapy, Reiki, and many other wonderful modalities. And she continued to look for something different because she believed there was an easier way. So when Venus did discover Access Consciousness, which is how we met, she realized that nothing needs to be fixed. Nobody is broken, and everyone is a gift the way they are. Just the way they are, just the way they are not. And so she had thought the lie that she was broken and needed to be fixed for a long time. So she spent a good part of her life looking to fix herself. And so this is just a little bit of a background of Venus and what we're going to talk about today. And then who knows where the conversation will veer from here. But again, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Betsy. Thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So tell me, part of your bio says you were no stranger to believing something was wrong with you from a very young age, and that you thought you needed to be fixed. So why don't you start our conversation today talking a little bit about that, and then how you came to discover that, hey, actually there is nothing wrong with me.
Great question. Thank you. I guess you could probably just start with my name. I was the odd one out from the get-go, like my mom named me Venus. I didn't give myself that name. I think it's kind of funny. I have people ask me that often. They're like, did you give yourself that name? I'm like, I don't think I would have chosen that one. And I'm very grateful for it now. But when I was a kid, I was teased. I was relentlessly teased. And I stood out. I was tall even when I was younger, and just didn't fit. I didn't fit in. I tried to fit in with the bad kids. I tried to fit in with the good kids. I didn't fit, and it got me into some trouble. And then I tried to play the middle of the road, but it just always felt like, something was wrong with me because I just didn't belong. I didn't have a sense of oh, these are my people and I belong here. And so that's kind of how it started, just being a kid that didn't fit in and made fun of a lot. And then as I got older, I started to try to find a place where I would fit. And so I thought, well, then I would fit with a partner. I was looking for Mr. Right. And so I went on the hunt for my knight in shining armor. I kissed a lot of frogs, and they didn't turn into princes. So I started to realize that wasn't really working. I wasn't finding a place to belong there. So then I started the alternative healthcare route and transformational work and metaphysics and yoga and, everything I could get my hands on, going, okay, there's got to be something out here that can fix me so that I'll fit. Which is really quite funny because, I don't know that any of us are meant to fit anywhere. And, the modalities helped a little bit in different ways. And I spent 20 years, studying different modalities. But it wasn't until Access about 7 years ago that I was just like, oh, wait, hang on. You mean to tell me I'm not broken and I don't need to be fixed? And it's okay that I don't fit in and that I don't fit with anything or anyone. And then that gave me a lot of freedom too, because when I could see that in myself, I really found that I could start seeing that in other people, and I started to see the gift that other people are, exactly the way they are and exactly the way they're not, But when I was focused on me and that I'm broken, I couldn't really see past that veil. I couldn't. I spent a lot of time focused on me. And now it's like, oh, wow, what would it be like if everyone in the world could get that they are a gift exactly the way they are and exactly the way they're not,
Well, and you bring up a really interesting point here with so much time. So you've decided, from a young age, and I think that there's a lot of people who have the same thing. So you decide at a very young age that there's something wrong with you. And so then you look to exactly like what you talked about, either to fix yourself or to fit in, to blend in, to somehow, if you can figure out the magic potion of not being wrong, if you can fit in, you can blend in, and you won't stand out, you won't be different, you won't be ridiculed, you won't. And so
won't be
in
abused.
that,
right.
you can really, really lose who you are. And so when you spend so much time in that place of judging yourself, that there's something so wrong with you, and if only you could, and fill in the blank, if only you had this, or if only you were this, or only if you said this, or if only you looked like this. And so in that, when you're so focused on all of the things that you aren't, you don't think about the gift that you actually are.
Right.
And so with that, I know for me too, like I spent the majority of my life thinking that I was wrong and terrible and if only, and, fill in my blanks of all the things I thought were wrong with me. And so I also kind of went down a journey of looking for things to it wasn't so much at that point fix me, it's just like something's got to change or I'm just not sure I want to be here. And so for you had all these different things like Reiki and massage and those things. Now, did they contribute to you, like starting to realize that there actually was nothing wrong with you?
I would say a little bit, sure. It definitely started to, it took me off. I'll back up just a little bit and just say that like my 20s, I did a lot of drugs and a lot of trying to numb out the world. And so when I became clean and sober, for me, that was the start of my alternative healthcare journey. So I became a seeker at that point, like, okay, so I'm seeking the joy of embodiment more versus how do I get out of my body. So yes, because it helped me start to like, oh, this is my body and how do I take care of my body and connect with my body. And so, but for at least 13 years of the beginning of that, I was trying to fix what I thought I had broken with all the drugs I had done. So I was like, well, I need to be, take care of myself nutritionally. And so I was still trying to fix something. That, again, I had concluded that I had done was a problem. And I didn't have actually anything to back that up other than I broke my arm and it shattered. And I knew it shouldn't shatter. It should have just broken clean. So that was kind of my wake-up call. Like, okay, I need to stop doing drugs. But so I used alternative healthcare to try to fix myself for a while. And then, each thing got me a little bit closer to me and a little bit like, oh, I actually feel better about myself. But it wasn't until Access Consciousness that I really realized, oh, wait, hang on, I'm not broken. So my focus shifted because it was like, oh, I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed. There's no problem here to solve. But I could find problems, right? I was trying to find problems, like in any way. So the tools of Access have been such a gift in that, like, wow, okay, even just my first bars class was just like, wait, hang on a second. Like, all the problems were gone. And it was like, wait. And of course, it doesn't mean over the last 7 years I haven't still occasionally looked for a problem, but but I catch it faster now, and I go, oh, okay, wait, is this really a problem, or is this a possibility, or what's the gift underneath this? Because we can also judge, like, what's happening in our life, because life happens, right? So say you get in a car wreck or something, and then you're like, well, this is a problem, something. And it's like, is it a problem, or is there actually a possibility here? Is there a gift here that you can't imagine, right? And it's just changing your focus, and that's all I've been doing, is just changing, okay, what's a different way that I can look at this instead of just seeing everything as a problem and everything as something that needs to be fixed.
Well, on that, when you are spending time trying to fix a problem that you've decided is a problem, that it's a problem, that you've decided it's a problem, so it's a problem.
Right. Yeah, it feeds itself. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like fertilizer that just can, that for weeds, and it just can grow and grow and compound, and you feel like you can't get yourself out of the hole of problems that you're so focused on. And so to look at these things, and when we come back from the break, we'll talk about how do you turn things that are problems into possibilities, and shifting the focus from a problem into possibilities. And even just the words, it's so interesting to be aware of the energies and the differences. I had Danielle Carter on my show, and we talked all about the energy of words. And, it's really fascinating, even just saying those two words and the energies that I'm very aware of around those words. It's fascinating.
It is. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's a great show, so you can certainly see that in the archives. I think it's something. The Energy of Word is the name of the show, and you can easily find it on OMTimes. So I think we're pretty much coming up on break time. So you guys are listening to Imperfect Brilliance, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes talking about problems into possibilities with Venus Castleberg. Stay tuned.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On. My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Do you have problems or do you have possibilities? So we've talked quite a bit about kind of the heaviness of problems and how you can just focus on the problems and that creates more problems. And I used to take a lot of pride actually in being a problem solver. And I realized one day that if I am a problem solver, and that's something I'm really good at, what do I need to be a problem solver? I was like, oops. That means I need more problems.
Problems, yeah.
So I very happily gave up that title. And that, that it's almost like the Miss America sash that you can walk around with is like, problem solver. I'm really good at it. It's like, oh, wait, let me hang up that sash and try something different. Because, yes, I was good at it. I still am. And it's not really fun and joyful to always have problems to solve.
Right.
I don't know about for you, but for me, it certainly wasn't.
No.
So tell everybody, like, some of the wonderful ways that when you're faced with something, like you mentioned, a car crash before, your car breaking down or something like that could, potentially be viewed as a problem. So what do you do when you're faced with whatever in your life that you could, let's say before you changed the way that you view everything, what do you do now if something is in front of you that you could potentially be viewing as a problem?
That's a great question. Well, I actually have a story that's not even my story, but it's such a great example of, so my current partner, he used to have this Subaru, and he used to call this Subaru his moneymaker. 'Cause every single time, yeah, right? But the Subaru was a magnet to Ford trucks hitting it. But it was never so much damage that it would put the car out of commission. It was always just enough. And at the time he and his family were living, very on the edge financially. And every time they were like really, really broke and they needed some money, like some Ford truck would hit the Subaru and the Subaru would, give it some insurance money. Cha-ching, there you go. And I love that story because it really is, it can be something like that you look back on and go, wow, that wasn't, somebody would have said that was a problem. And truthfully, every single time that happened, that money was really needed, Wow. So taking anything that happens and going, okay, so what is the possibility here? I mentioned my broken arm, when I shattered my arm, it was my wake up call. And I stopped partying. I stopped doing drugs. I got shifted gears, went in a completely different path. So I know that broken arm, while it wasn't fun and it wasn't something that I'd sign up for again, I wouldn't have traded it because of where it led me.
Oh, wow.
So that possibility. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
It just made me remember a story from my own life where it's probably been 15 years now, but I had breast cancer, and my husband lost his job in the middle of it. He got, and so if you're listening, you're like, oh my God. And you talk about actually a blessing, because I literally had to go for chemo every single day. They really were like bombarding the cancer very aggressively. And so I had to go in for the IV treatments every day. And it was not an easy time for me physically, and it was a lot of days I couldn't drive. I just wasn't feeling up to it. And so if he had been at his job, I'm looking at who would have been taking me to the chemo every day. It would have been, yes, I could have managed, and, I'm sure there would have been a lot of people who would have been willing to step in and give me rides and all these things. But to have him actually with me and to help take care of me when I was not feeling well was such a gift. And, so that is something that you wouldn't look at. You would look at it and go, oh, my God, it's the problem. But it actually turned out to be such a gift for us. So and that just popped in when you were talking about your story with the car and the act. So, I wonder, like, for everybody listening, how many different things in your life are actually our blessings, our gifts. And so are there some questions and things that you can recommend for people to ask when they're faced with something going on in their lives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the first one is always, okay, what's the possibility here that I can't see? There's other ways to ask it. I ask, what's right about this I'm not getting? What's the beauty behind this? It's like, because there's always something, and it doesn't mean that when something happens that you instantly have the awareness of what the beauty is behind it. Because truthfully, you're in a car wreck, you're dealing with it in the moment. But when you're done, with it and you go home, you can be asking, okay, so what is right about this I'm not getting? What is the beauty behind this? And it just changes it from, oh, I can't believe that happened to me. Oh, woe is me. Problem, more problem. Like I don't know about you, but I remember in the old days when I'd get pulled over by a cop, I'd like instantly cry. And it wasn't manipulation. I was worried about my insurance going up because I was that broke. So I wasn't manipulating them, but I can't tell you how many times I got off because I was crying like a baby, but I was legitimately crying. So something good came out of that, even though in the moment I was really traumatized. Like, I got pulled over and I can't afford more insurance and blah, blah. So,
yeah. Well, and that question, what is right about this I'm not getting? Because we go that same thing that we started this conversation off with, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. So even like, what's wrong with this situation? I'm asking that question, what is right about this that maybe I'm not seeing right now? Like, oh, maybe there is something right about it. And, sometimes I don't see what's right about it, but just asking that question will shift my thinking where I might be in that box of this is a problem and there's something wrong, to that question reminds me that, hey, what if there is nothing wrong here? What if there is no problem? And so for me, like the tools of access that we talk about on the show every week and the questions, so one of the first things that we talk about in any of the classes that we facilitate is, asking questions. And you don't have to have the answer or know the answer. Just asking the question will shift things for you. And then the other piece that I did want to talk about, and it was part of the introduction to, was knowing that the universe actually has your back. So I would love to hear like some other examples and questions and things that you ask where you do know that the universe absolutely does have your back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I definitely feel like I live a very blessed life. I'm very grateful. But I even just had one recently. There was, and this might seem not that big a deal, but it was really cool to see how it all played out. Because at the beginning of July, I really wanted to go to this training in Paris, and it was heavy. I think you guys probably have talked about heavy and light on this show, but it really wasn't coming together. And I definitely went to what's wrong. Like I really want to go, and then it was just like, okay, I surrender. I know that it's heavy. That means it's not the right time for me, and I'm gonna let it go. And then it was amazing how something else, a completely different, ended up happening just a few weeks later, where I just saw Betsy again, that was totally light and has expanded my world in ways I never imagined. So I had to let go of my attachment to what I thought I needed to be doing or where I needed to be going, and let the universe show me there's some other magic possible here. There's something else that you can't see. So, and when that happens, I always go, the universe has my back, like in ways I never imagined, because it always works out better than I can ever imagine when I let go.
When you let go and you stop being a control freak, and you really wanted to go to this particular event, and but it was like a force. You were trying to force it, and you certainly are welcome to explain the light and the heavy a little bit and following the energy. But it really is like when you want it, and then it's just everything is like going through quicksand trying to make it happen, and then that's a great time to ask that question. What is right about this I'm not getting?
Yeah.
Darn it, I want this to be the way I want it to be.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So heavy and light, like Betsy gave a great example. Heavy is when you do feel like you're moving through quicksand. It's like sometimes too, if somebody says something to me, or I almost feel like I got kicked in the gut. To me, it's a heaviness it's a no for me. It's a lie for me. And I pay attention to that, especially when things feel like they're not moving. Because when things are moving with ease and they just happen seamlessly and it all comes together, and then I'm like, that's light for me. That's got lots of space to it. And then when it's a lot of work and I'm swimming upstream, I'm like, okay, hang on a second. Is there some information here I'm not getting, and what's right about this? And that, and I asked those questions right up to the last day that I could choose to live stream the class in the beginning of July. And I was like, it's still heavy. So for me, it was a no. And I'm like, okay, so I went to a different question of, okay, is now the time? And got, no. And I was like, okay, so but I couldn't perceive what was going to happen just 3 weeks later.
Right.
I had no idea that was even on the playing field. So,
well, share with everybody what happened 3 weeks later.
So 3 weeks later, I was standing in the living room, and my partners looked at me and said, "What would it take for you to become a business done different, joy of business facilitator?" And my whole body lit up. It was like every cell in my body like popped like little bubbles, like, and I was like, whoa. Like it was something that I thought would be cool to do, but I never really asked any questions around it. I never, you know, and it was kind of on the bottom of my list of things to do. I'm like, oh, I'll get to that someday. That'll be fun. But when he asked the question out of the blue, it wasn't something we were talking about, and my whole body had that reaction. I was like, oh, there's something here. Like it, you know, it's like goosebumps and every hair stands on end, and you're like, oh, that's a different energy than the moving through mud and trying to force Paris. So, so I started asking questions from that, and then the next thing I know, I'm actually at the JCF facilitator training in Houston, Texas. It just happened last week.
Yeah,
so.
It was phenomenal training, and she got in her car and drove across the country for this training, and I thought, what an adventure that you created for yourself. You know, you got in the car by yourself and had an adventure.
Yeah, and that was also funny because I could have flown, and probably for about the same price, but it was so light to drive. And then all of the things that happened on the way, I got to stop and see my mom, which I hadn't planned on, and all the things that the awareness I got and the things that got created on that trip was huge. That probably wouldn't have happened to the degree they happened since I had 22 hours in a car. So I had plenty of time to work through stuff.
That's amazing. You know, and that it really is, it's like following the whispers of the universe. And when you couldn't see it at first, and then what laid out in front of you was far different and far greater than what you could have even imagined, right? Because you're just like, okay, well, I'll just get in the car and go. And then you had all these great adventures along the way.
Yeah, totally. And then I've learned that not to go in conclusion about that next time I'll drive too. So it could be different.
For sure. Next time you just have the joy of asking questions and really listening to the energies of it in every given moment. All right, you guys, it's time for break number 2. We'll be back with Venus in a very short amount of time. Stay tuned, guys.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Guys are listening to Imperfect Brilliance. I'm so grateful that you tune in and listen and for your feedback. I truly do appreciate it. And remember, you can always email me at accessbetsy, BETSY, @gmail.com with any show ideas, or if there's somebody that you would like me to have on the radio as an interview, I'm happy to do that. And I invite you to. You can check out my website, which is creatingyumminess.com. And you can find me, of course, on Facebook through Imperfect Brilliance or my name, Betsy McLaughlin. And Venus, how can people find you?
Oh, that's great. Creating Yumminess. I love your website.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, you could find me actually at venuscastleberg.com. And then I have Venus Castleberg CF page on Facebook. And I'm on Instagram. And yeah, there's all sorts of places. So
places and spaces to find us.
Yeah.
And so problems into possibilities. What else would you like to talk about with, we've talked about the universe having our back and shifting our point of view around problems into possibilities through questions. And really, a lot of it is your point of view. And so what else would you like to add to this conversation today?
Well, that actually is a great point. If you're looking at something as a problem, that's one point of view. And then if you look at it as a possibility, that's a completely different point of view. You can't really control what happens in life because life happens, but you can change how you see it. And if you're looking for a problem, we already said it will multiply, you'll find more problems. And I found that even in relationship and partnership, I definitely have had a lot of relationships where, I was always looking for the problem. And so now I look for what can I be grateful for? And then that changes my point of view. What am I looking for? If I'm looking for problems, I'm going to find them. If I look for gratitude and things to be grateful for, then I find those too. So.
Yes, for sure. And that's bringing the piece in about relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, a business relationship, friends, whatever the relationship is. If you're finding yourself in judgment or criticizing the other person, for me, that's a great time to actually stop, and kind of hit that big red stop button and then ask, what could I be grateful for here? And, sometimes if I'm decided that I'm angry, like let's just, we'll talk about my husband for a minute. If there's something that I'm angry about with him, like if I go into the kitchen and the kitchen's a mess, like, wait a minute, he's actually cooking something, and then you're going to get mad because it's not the way you want it. Well, hello, he's cooking something, right? Or, and it's really like my friend Kathy Williams, who we used to have the show together, one of the questions that she loved to share with her father, who taught her this at a young age, was the question, will this matter in 5 years? Yep. And I love that question because it gets you out of the intensity of whatever's going on right then. Because really, is it going to matter in 5 years if the kitchen's messy, or does it really matter? And so I know that sometimes I can get myself really caught up in something that really doesn't matter at all. So what about you? What are some other things that you would like to share with us?
That reminds me of Stephen Chutisa Bowman. So Stephen Chutisa Bowman actually, before they say anything to each other, they ask, is this creating greater, or am I trying to be right and prove something here?
I wouldn't know anything about that. Trying to prove how right I am, yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
so what's the question again? Can you say that again?
Yeah. So they ask themselves before they say something, am I trying to prove something here? Am I trying to be right? Or is this something that's going to create greater? Is this a contribution? So it's like keeping yourself in check too, and being like, okay, so before I say something that may, like you said, is it going to matter in 5 years? Not, is it really going to contribute greater? Like, I really think about, like, what am I going to say? And truthfully, sometimes it just has me shut up a lot. I just be quiet a lot, which is good, because I remember in the old days I so wanted to be right, and look good and all that stuff. So I would, fill the space and talk all the time. A lot of times I sounded probably pretty dumb, like just being like, and now it's like, I'm quiet a lot more. I'm like, okay, that I don't need to say that. Like, that's not going to create greater here, so.
Yeah. And another question that popped in along the same lines, is this going to create greater or decay? Whatever's going on. And so if you're getting it's going to decay, it's like, okay, then you're going to actually say this for what reason? And again, are you just trying to, bash your point of view across everybody's head, or what are you creating here? And and just even if you still choose to do whatever you're choosing to do, but doing it from that place of more awareness and not so much like a reflex or just defaulting to old behaviors. When, like you said, you kind of check yourself and what am I actually creating here? And I know for me, and I'm pretty sure for you as well, we've really changed a lot of our lives, and my life is so much easier than it has ever been. And I'm always asking, what creates greater, and how can I have even more ease? And from that place of having way more ease and asking to create greater, what is showing up, and that's a perfect example of how the universe really does have my back, what is showing up because I'm asking these questions, I'm being that energy and that invitation for more and greater and more ease. That's exactly what's showing up.
Awesome.
It's like, thank you, universe, yes, please.
Yeah. And I'll go a step farther with that too, because one of the things I have noticed is let's say that you choose something that you do say something that you're trying to be right or prove something, or you make a choice that's heavy and kind of against your own awareness. The universe still has your back because it's going to use that to your advantage. Even if you choose heavy or you're trying to be right, you gain awareness of like, oh, that didn't really feel that good. Like the other day, I pointed out my stepdaughter was eating all the nuts, and I was like, you should save some of those for your dad. And I was like, wow, that is such an interesting point of view. like, sorry, kid, I don't care, eat all the nuts. But just, the things that we say and then go, okay, so that choice created an awareness. And I can choose to do that again, or now I can make a different choice. So really getting that everything is still working in our favor, even if, we don't always get it right, because there is no right way anyway. But
well, it's so true, and so if you're willing to not be right, and if you're willing to not be wrong, then what?
Yeah.
So if you're not right and you're not wrong, what are you? Like, wait, what? That's such a great question. I'm like, oh, because I spent so much time like defending my point of view, either defending it or trying to beat somebody over the head with it. And why couldn't they see my point of view? Because my point of view was the right point of view.
Right.
Not that I grew up with parents like that or anything.
Right. Well, don't get me started on every modality I studied. Every modality I studied was like the new religion. I have the thing that will save you and fix you and take care of you. And people would tell me they have something going on and be like, oh, I know what can fix that. And then I was just like,
yes.
very interesting. I don't do that anymore. As a matter of fact, I shut up most of the time. So, yeah.
Well, and it's so true because there's nothing to fix.
Right.
There
Right.
truly is nothing to fix. Yes, there's things that we can contribute and we can, empower people that they already know. You already know. And it's just like these questions that we talk about. And we're not, sitting here saying that we're right and you're wrong or anything like that. It's just these things work for us. These questions work for us and have made our lives easier. And I know, and I know I can speak for you in this point, is, our desires is really to empower you and to gift you what you know already. And so when asking these questions and looking at things from a different perspective, a different point of view, what is the gift of that for you in your own life, let alone anybody else that, might come in contact with you when you change? I know I'm not even sure I'd still be married, honestly. Our marriage was headed down a very, very, very rocky, dark road, and I wasn't sure how in the world we were going to survive it. And now, because I'm so different, and I don't have this, I have to be right, or I have to prove you wrong, or you're so bad, or it's really, and not to say that there aren't things that come up, but it's just so much easier. And I'm so grateful for that, to be in that place of my life is so much easier, and I don't think that everything is a problem anymore. So when we decided to talk about this subject today, I was like, oh gosh, this is great. And so a lot of the other things too, gosh, there's so many different directions we could still go with this conversation. And I would like to just kind of wrap it up, just talking about like the pieces of what we learned as children and what, others have taught us. So very quickly, what would you like to say about that piece?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Okay. Gosh, I kind of already forgot what I said. Isn't that funny? I was talking about like what you've learned as a kid about all of this, and is just kind of wondering how much of what you decided is actually even yours.
Oh yes, like how much we were taught that we were broken and needed to be fixed and something was wrong. Yes,
exactly.
Of course, yeah, and I got one of the things, was just not to be too much. Don't be too much. Don't stand out too much. Don't, And so it was trying to, play the middle of the road, so I wasn't too much and I didn't stand out. But yeah, it's all learned behavior for sure from our parents and then our peers and then when things don't go really great, like I had some abuse when I was young, then there's this tendency to want to hide, so and thinking somehow that hiding and fitting in and all that stuff is actually going to protect us, when in actuality the real not that we need protection, but the real protection comes from awareness. It comes from being aware of what's going on around you instead of shutting down and withdrawing.
That's so true. Because when you have the awareness, you just like, and instantly, and there's no thinking about it, there's no trying to figure it out, there's no you're right, you're wrong, you just know. And again, talking about ease with everything, right? How easy it is it just to have that awareness?
Yep, and then not to go down that alley, or what you know. So, And there's a level of trust and having, I love to acknowledge that the universe has our backs, and the truth is, so do we, if we let ourselves. And acknowledge that, like, oh wow, I really do have my back. I knew not to date that guy. I did it anyway, but I knew not to.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
That is so true. And it being like acknowledging whether you listen to it or even when you don't listen to it, and then instead of beating yourself up and think, oh, I knew better and I didn't, and I'm so stupid, and why didn't I? Just be like, oh, okay, what could you choose next time? And in acknowledging your awareness, you're not discounting it. You're just like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't my greatest choice, and thank you. I always thank my awareness. It's like one of the things I say. I just like, thank you, awareness. Thank you. Thank you.
I love what Simone says. Maybe I wasn't my brightest crayon in the box, but it wasn't my brightest moment.
Venus, thank you so much. I can't believe our time is already up.
I know.
Thank you for visiting us today.
Thank you, Betsy. It was such a pleasure. Yep.
Awesome. You guys, check out Venus's show. Check her out on Facebook. And thank you again for listening to Imperfect Brilliance. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, guys.
Bye. Bye.